Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up because what you're about to hear is the most explosive television moment of the decade that has left Hollywood reeling and social media completely on fire. Legendary Academy Award-winning actor Al Pacino, the man who gave us unforgettable performances in the Godfather trilogy, Scarface, Scent of a Woman, and so many other classics, walked onto the set of The View expecting a relaxed chat about his incredible 60-year career and his latest projects. At 85 years young, Pacino still commands respect like no other, with that signature intensity in his eyes and that gravelly voice that can silence a room. But nobody, and I mean nobody, could have predicted that a simple daytime talk show appearance would turn into absolute chaos when Joy Behar decided to go full attack mode. The episode dared live, and within minutes clips were exploding across TikTok, X, YouTube, Instagram, everywhere. Millions of views in hours, trending #1 worldwide with hashtags like #AlPacinoWalksOut, #JoyBehar cancelled, #The View meltdown. People are calling it the moment daytime television died, the moment a Hollywood icon finally said enough is enough to the non-stop gotcha questions and biased ambushes that have become the hallmark of certain hosts. Sources close to the production say the tension backstage was already thick because Pacino's team had specifically requested no political questions, yet Joy Behar apparently ignored that completely. The other co-hosts Whoopi Goldberg, Sunny Hostin, Sarah Haynes, Alyssa Fair-Griffin, and Anna Navarro sat there in stunned silence as the argument escalated from 0 to 100 in seconds. Eyewitnesses in the studio audience say you could hear a pin drop when Pacino finally stood up, threw down his microphone, and stormed off the set, leaving Joy Behar speechless for maybe the first time in her career. This wasn't just a disagreement, folks. This was a masterclass in standing your ground against someone who thinks they can bully a legend just because they have a Hot Topics table and a live audience that claps on cue. The fallout has been immediate. ABC executives are reportedly in crisis meetings, sponsors are getting nervous, and Joy Behar's own future on the show is suddenly very much in question. Stay with me because I'm about to break down every single second of this unbelievable confrontation and show you exactly why Al Pacino became an even bigger hero to millions of Americans that day. Let's set the scene properly because the build-up to the explosion was actually deceptively calm at first, which made the eventual meltdown hit even harder. The show opens with the usual applause and introductions, Whoopi Goldberg welcoming everyone and hyping up the guest list, saying today we have the one and only Al Pacino here to talk about his extraordinary life in film and his new memoir that's climbing the bestseller lists. Pacino walks out looking sharp in a black suit, that famous half-smile on his face, waving to the audience who give him a standing ovation because come on, it's Al freaking Pacino. He sits down, the ladies are gushing, Sunny Hostin calls him an American treasure. Sarah Haynes says she grew up watching his movies. Even Joy Behar starts off complimentary, saying she's been a fan since Dog Day Afternoon and how his performance in Serpico changed her view of acting forever. The first 10 minutes are actually pleasant. They talk about his early days in the Bronx, studying at the Actors Studio, working with Marlon Brando on The Godfather, the famous "Whoa" line from Scent of a Woman that won him the Oscar. Pacino is charming, dropping little anecdotes, making the audience laugh with stories about Robert De Niro pranking him on the set of Heat. Everyone is eating it up. Then they take the first commercial break and when they come back, you can almost feel the shift in energy. Joy Behar leans forward with that look she gets when she's about to drop what she thinks is a bombshell question, and she starts steering the conversation toward politics because of course she does. She brings up how Hollywood has changed, how certain classic films would never get made today because of wokeness and cancel culture, and Pacino, being the honest New York guy he is, says something like look, art should provoke, it should make people uncomfortable sometimes, that's how we grow. The audience applauds, Whoopi nods, but Joy's face changes. She doesn't like that answer because it doesn't fit the narrative she wants. She pushes harder, bringing up specific examples of actors being cancelled for old roles, and suddenly she pivots to Pacino himself, asking him point-blank if he regrets playing Michael Corleone because some activists say it perpetuated negative Italian-American stereotypes. The studio goes quiet. You can see Pacino's jaw tighten, but he stays calm at first, explaining that the character is complex, tragic, a commentary on power and corruption, not a celebration of crime. But Joy keeps interrupting, talking over him, saying, "But don't you think it's harmful? Don't you think you have responsibility?" And that's when the temperature really starts rising. Here's where it all goes completely off the rails and turns into the viral moment that broke the internet. Pacino tries to finish his thought, saying, "Listen, I'm an actor, I play characters, I don't endorse every action they take. That would be insane. Imagine if every actor had to agree with everything their character does." The audience actually laughs and claps because it's such an obvious point, but Joy Behar doubles down, raising her voice, saying, "Well, some people think actors do have that responsibility now." And then she drops the line that lights the fuse. She says, "With all due respect, Al, you're from a different generation. Maybe you don't understand how words and images affect marginalized communities today." The gasp in the studio is audible, calling Al Pacino out of touch at 85 after everything he's contributed to cinema is beyond disrespectful. Pacino's eyes narrow, he leans forward, and in that quiet, intense voice that made Tony Montana terrifying, he says, "Excuse me, I grew up poor in the Bronx. I know exactly what marginalization feels like. I fought my whole life to be taken seriously as an Italian-American actor when the only roles we got were gangsters or dumb sidekicks." Joy tries to interrupt again, but Pacino keeps going, getting louder, saying, "You sit here on this show every day judging people, telling them what they're allowed to think, what they're allowed to say, but when someone pushes back you call them outdated, you call them problematic. Well, I'm sorry, Joy, but that's not conversation. That's censorship." The audience is now split, some clapping, some silent. The other hosts are looking at each other like they don't know whether to jump in or let it play out. Joy, red in the face, fires back with, "Well, maybe if you listen to younger voices instead of defending the same old toxic masculinity." And that word, toxic, that's the one that finally breaks Pacino. He stands up slowly, unclips his mic, looks directly at Joy and says, "You know what? I came here in good faith to talk about my work, my life, but this isn't an interview, this is an ambush, and I don't need to sit here and be lectured by someone who's never made a movie in her life about what's toxic." Then, in the most iconic moment, he drops the mic, literally lets it fall to the floor with a thud that echoes through the studio, turns his back, and walks off set while the audience is in complete shock. Commercial break is called early. The producers are panicking. You can hear someone in the control room yelling, "Cut to break, cut to break." The seconds after Pacino storms off are pure television chaos that no scriptwriter could ever dream up. The camera stays on the hosts. Joy Behar is sitting there with her mouth open, actually speechless for once, while Whoopi Goldberg tries to fill the dead air with, "Well, that was certainly passionate television, folks. We'll be right back." But the damage is already done. The clip of Pacino saying this isn't an interview, this is an ambush is already being shared millions of times before the commercial even ends. Backstage, crew members say Pacino didn't scream or throw anything. He just calmly walked to his dressing room, told his assistant, "We're leaving now," got in his car and was gone within 5 minutes. His publicist later released a short statement saying Mr. Pacino was disappointed that a celebration of his career turned into a political interrogation and he chose to remove himself from a hostile environment. Meanwhile, on set after the break, the hosts try to recover. Joy Behar actually says, "I was just asking questions. I didn't mean to upset him," but you can tell she's rattled because her voice is shaking. Sonny Hosting tries to defend her, saying, "We have to be able to have tough conversations," but even she looks uncomfortable. Social media explodes immediately. #Stand with Al Pacino trends higher than anything else. Celebrities start posting. Robert De Niro writes respect. Quentin Tarantino posts a gif of Pacino from Heat with the caption, "When you've had enough." Even Joe Pesci tweets, "My friend Al, don't take crap from nobody." Conservative commentators are having a field day, calling it the moment the silent majority finally saw someone fight back against The View's bullying tactics, while some liberal outlets try to spin it as Pacino being thin-skinned and unable to handle criticism. But the numbers don't lie. The clip gets 50 million views in 24 hours. bigger than any Super Bowl ad. ABC's own YouTube channel uploads the segment and the dislike ratio is 95% against. Comments disabled within hours because it's too toxic. Sponsors start getting calls. People threatening boycotts. The network is forced to issue an apology saying we regret that our guest felt disrespected and we're reaching out to Mr. Pacino's team. Joy Behar goes radio silent on social media, which for her is basically unheard of. The next day's episode opens with Whoopi saying we're sorry if anyone was offended, but we stand by our right to ask tough questions. But the audience in studio is noticeably smaller and quieter. This one moment has shifted the entire conversation about daytime talk shows and whether they've gone too far in their quest for viral moments. Now let's talk about the wider Hollywood reaction because this didn't happen in a vacuum. This was a dam breaking after years of celebrities biting their tongue to protect their careers. Within hours, A-list stars who've been on The View and felt the same ambush treatment start speaking out anonymously at first, then publicly. One major director texts a reporter, "This is why I never let my actors do that show anymore. It's a trap." Another Oscar winner says privately, "Thank God someone finally did what we all wanted to do." Even some former View co-hosts like Meghan McCain tweet in support, saying Al Pacino is a national treasure and deserved better. The Italian-American community rallies hard. Anti-defamation groups release statements saying Joy Behar's comments about stereotypes were the real offense here. Pacino himself gives one interview the following week to a friendly podcast where he's calm but firm, saying, "Look, I have no hate in my heart, but I'm too old to sit there and be told I'm the problem when all I've ever done is try to tell stories that make people think." He says he's not angry, just disappointed, and that he hopes the show can go back to actually celebrating guests instead of interrogating them. That soundbite alone gets another 20 million views. Meanwhile, Joy Behar's past controversial moments are dug up and replayed everywhere. Clips of her clashing with other guests, calling Republicans evil, making jokes that aged terribly. Her rating on sites like Rotten Tomatoes for audience score doesn't exist, but if it did it would be in the single digits right now. The View's overall sees its lowest ratings in years the following week as viewers tune out in protest. Disney executives are reportedly furious because Pacino was supposed to be the big get that boosted November sweeps. Instead it became a PR nightmare. There's serious talk about whether Joy's contract will be renewed next year. Insiders say the network is polling shows she's become a liability. Some sponsors quietly pull ads, not wanting to be associated with the backlash. Younger demographics that ABC desperately wants are posting TikToks recreating Pacino's mic drop with captions like "when the group chat gets political." Late-night hosts are afraid to touch it at first, but eventually Jimmy Fallon does a gentle sketch, but even he sides with Pacino. The whole incident becomes a cultural turning point. People saying finally someone with nothing left to lose stood up to the daytime thought police. Al Pacino's memoir sales skyrocket. He trends for weeks. A new generation discovers his classics because kids are watching the clip and then streaming Scarface for the first time. So where do we go from here? What does this moment really mean for television, for Hollywood, for all of us watching at home? Al Pacino didn't just walk off a talk show. He walked away from an entire toxic culture that demands everyone parrot the same approved opinions or be labeled problematic. He reminded us that legends don't have to play by the new rules if the new rules are unfair, that respect should be mutual, that you can love someone's art without agreeing with every take they have. The View tries to move on. They book safe for guests, tone down the hot topics for a few weeks, but the damage is done. People now watch expecting another meltdown, and when it doesn't happen they change the channel. Joy Behar eventually addresses it on air with a half apology, saying she never meant to offend a legend and she admires, but it rings hollow to most viewers who saw the full clip. Pacino, classy as ever, accepts the apology publicly but declines any invitation to return. His team says he's focusing on his work, on directing a new project, on spending time with his young children. And maybe that's the real legacy of this whole mess. It showed that real men, real artists, don't need to sit there and take disrespect just to sell a few books or promote a movie. They can say no, they can walk away, and the world will still spin. Actually it'll spin better because someone finally stood up. Years from now film students will study this clip the same way they study Brando refusing his Oscar, as a moment when an artist chose dignity over publicity. Al Pacino didn't lose a thing that day. He gained the eternal respect of millions who were tired of being told what to think by daytime TV hosts with agendas. And Joy Behar, well, she learned the hard way that even legends have limits, and when you push a man who once screamed Attica, Attica in a movie, don't be surprised when he brings that same energy to real life. Thank you Al Pacino for reminding us all how to stand tall, how to say enough is enough, and how to exit the stage on your own terms. Hollywood is still buzzing, the internet is still arguing, but one thing is crystal clear. Nobody messes with Al Pacino and comes out looking good. If you agree, smash that like button, subscribe for more celebrity drama you don't want to miss, and let me know in the comments if you think Pacino was right to walk or if Joy was just doing her job. This has been the full breakdown of the day. A legend said no more, and I'll see you in the next one.